The first thing I see with this cylinder here, I think this one's standing out to me the most. The issue, I would say, is the direction of the cylinder is not aligned with the circular plane of the cylinder. Anytime you have a cylinder, you have the major and minor axis that go along it like this. So in this case, yours is something like that, right? Because the widest part of the circular face is where you find the edges of your major axis.
Yeah.
Your minor axis determines the direction of the cylinder. So the direction is here. Once you have your minor axis established, because it has to be perpendicular, from the extremities of your circular plane, you just bring those in. You converge them slightly. And that will give you the correct direction. So if you want to draw the angle that you had, where you have like 3 of them shooting out and they're like converging in the back, completely ignore the major and minor axis for now. Once you've done that, then you have to look at where the minor axis and major axes are. Once this is in place, I can just draw all of those edges in.
So the other exercise I was doing just makes it harder.
Well, it doesn't make it harder, but it's just not correlated. I guess it is a more advanced exercise, but all it does is it helps you like feel out the plane a bit. You just get to draw your lines in perspective like that, which is, it's not wrong, right? But it doesn't represent the major and minor axis. You have to have separation, like separate those intentions. And then if you want to have them vanishing, you know, if you want to have the common vanishing point be more over here, all you have to do is just rotate them like that. Because from here you can rotate them in any angle and they're all gonna make sense. For these, were you trying to have them kind of...
Yeah, basically the same as the other thing. Yeah, orthographically parallel.
Yeah, what you could do is draw like one line in perspective. And if it helps, just for this orthographic setup, place a plane and that'll help keep everything aligned. And then you can draw another line where you want your cylinders to be. Let's say the bottom one is down here. Though note that these are not the major and minor axes that I've just drawn. This bottom one here didn't work. Lines that go across, they have to incrementally get closer and closer to one another. You could also just draw the circles in perspective and just have them get squished as they go down. From here, but what you have is more like, it's not really front on like this, it's kind of angled. What you're doing is you're taking that major axis. Notice how all of the major axes are like this, so they're horizontal. That means that they're facing us. If you rotate that major axis like this, they end up facing a bit to the side. So in this case, to the left. So then from here, just as if you were extruding the vertices of a box, from this point, you could just cut anything. You're just trying to have everything converge consistently. It's the same thing here. You have your bottom and your top, and then you just converge everything consistently like this. The hard part is just making these front planes look accurate, but I think once you have that done, then it's super easy. Now the easiest way to do that is draw your orthographic circles. Draw in a vertical line and then horizontal lines on each of the circles, and then distort that in perspective. And that's gonna help you understand that these...
Yeah, those are no longer the minor and major.
Yeah, those are not the minor and major axes. But from here, it's super easy to extrude those in perspective. It's just hard to get that perfect circle distorted in perspective like I just did here.
Yeah.
That's why the tool helps. I find what I'm trying to work on is getting that circle in perspective to look nice. For some people, I would say that the thing that they have to work on is managing the minor and major axes, as well as just getting that convergence accurate. Drawing your circle in perspective and having one with a shorter minor axis than the other is going to help. The major axes point in the same direction, and then the minor axis is perpendicular to that direction. This is the direction of your cylinder, and then you extrude that circular plane downwards like this.
And then inevitably, your minor and major axis looks goofy in perspective now, but that's fine because you drew the cylinder.
Yeah, it kind of looks like an orthographic, right? Because it's somehow perfect. It's like a perfect right angle. Just to
The purpose of it is to like help you extrude it in the right direction.
Yeah, that's
helpful, I think.
Yeah, exactly. That's the point, to help you extrude it in the right direction. And then on top of this, I might add a cross here. I think the cross in perspective just helps sell it a bit more. But note that these are not the major and minor axes. Again, to tell where your major axis is, it's wherever these lines point to, right here. So you just connect those. It's very hard to tell exactly where, but it should be right as the cylinder starts to turn. That's the point. See how they're both facing around in the right direction. If not, it's because you drew the cylinders wrong, as I just did. But it's very slight mistakes. The last thing I want to show you is a warping direction. So you can have a direction going like this. All the major axes on your cylinder have to be perpendicular to the direction. Just how the major axis of the cylinder is perpendicular to the minor axis, because the minor axis represents the direction. So you can also consider this the minor axis of the cylinder.
Is that like perpendicular in perspective?
Well, it's perpendicular to the minor axis. The minor axis changes as you move around. The minor axis and major axis are just to help you understand the cylinder that you're drawing from your point of view. But someone else who's looking at it from your right side, he's going to see his own major and minor axes. So he's going to draw the cylinder differently than you. This cylinder looks good because everything is perpendicular. If it was not perpendicular and the major axes are not perpendicular to that direction of the cylinder, but you still have your curving edges, still try to follow that, it'll look kind of weird, which is kind of what's happening here. You see how your direction is here, but your major axis, it doesn't have that right angle, it's a obtuse angle. So what you needed to have was, find that direction and have your major and minor axes perpendicular to that, and then you're all set. But notice how you drew the same thing here. This and this is the same, but in this case you kept your plus always pretty much orthographic, and then kind of started to distort it in perspective as we got lower. So maybe you felt it worked better here, and it did. Yeah.
I think I thought it worked worse, but
it was more correct. So you can have one like this, and you can also stretch out your cylinder like this. So the major axis stays the same, it's just the minor axis that instead of being out here, it decreases. And then, if you have a warping cylinder here, there's a curve, so I wouldn't be able to just draw this because it wouldn't follow along the curve. So this is a special scenario, so I'm gonna have to treat my cylinder more as like a contour line, as if I was just contouring the direction. But all those contours, again, where they end, when you draw a line between both of those ends, it has to have a right angle. And then when you connect everything, it's gonna look good. And like I said, you connect them and you have like an acute angle or an obtuse angle, it's gonna look weird when you connect it. That's why you need to always make sure that they're perpendicular.
But couldn't you have made that one work with that little lemon slice shape there?
If your intention is to draw like a perfect circle and extrude that perfect circle along a curving axis, then that would not be considered successful. But if we take an orthographic cut of this could be the cross section, and I could make that work. But for it to work, I have to have it be my intention.